Welcome to a journey through medieval horrors forgotten by time. Churches with haunted bells, cursed mirrors, and shadowy figures await. Dare to watch, if you can survive the stories. In a forgotten medieval village, there stood a church long abandoned, its spire cracked and windows shattered. Locals whispered about it for centuries, saying that its bells, once silenced by a tragic massacre, rang only when the blood moon appeared. No living soul could see the bell ringer. Yet, each time the crimson moon rose, the bells tolled on their own, sending a shiver down the spine of anyone brave enough to walk past. The story tells of villagers who vanished without a trace after hearing the first toll. Some found later, lifeless, eyes wide open, staring at the sky as if frozen in horror. One stormy night, a wandering monk curious about the legends dared to enter. The air inside the church was thick with dust, and the faint metallic scent of old blood lingered. Candle stubs burned weakly, their flickering shadows dancing like ghostly figures across the walls. As he approached the altar, the bells began to ring, deep, resonant, impossibly loud, echoing through the ruined village. The monk felt a cold hand brush his shoulder, though no one was there. With each toll, his vision blurred, and whispers filled the empty nave, chanting names of the vanished. The final bell sounded, and the air froze. A crimson shadow emerged, resembling a skeletal figure draped in tattered priest robes. It turned to the monk, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul. The legend was true. The church's bells did not simply toll, they collected souls, marking them for eternity. The monk's scream joined the whispers, trapped forever between the echoes of the bells. Even now, villagers say that on nights of the blood moon, the bells of the old church ring again. And if you listen carefully, you can hear a voice calling your name, inviting you to join the forgotten chorus of the damned. In a quiet, medieval town, a skilled silversmith stumbled upon an ancient, charred book hidden beneath the ruins of a long-forgotten library. Its cover was blackened, pages brittle, and faint smoke seemed to curl from the edges, as if the book itself still breathed. Locals warned him never to touch it, claiming the book had been cursed centuries ago by a sorcerer burned alive for forbidden knowledge. But curiosity, as it always does, overcame caution. The moment he opened the book, the room filled with a cold, unnatural wind. Words etched in flames crawled across the pages, glowing with a fiery red hue that pulsed like a heartbeat. As he read, letters seared his fingertips, leaving painful, smoking impressions that did not heal. Whispers echoed around him, indistinct at first, then forming a language he inexplicably understood. The words spoke of rituals, vengeance, and those who had dared to read the book before him. All vanished without a trace, their fates sealed by the very flames on the pages. By midnight, shadows grew longer, twisting across the walls and floor, forming grotesque shapes that mirrored his deepest fears. The silversmith's reflection in the mirror behind him blurred, replaced by flickering images of those burned centuries ago, their hollow eyes begging for release. Each sentence he read pulled him deeper into the book's history, binding his soul to the cursed knowledge. By dawn, the townspeople found the workshop empty. The book lay on the table, still smoldering, its words unreadable to anyone else. The silversmith had disappeared, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke and the echo of whispers. Legend says that anyone who dares open the burned book feels the burn of its letters upon their hands, hearing voices calling them to finish the story, and if they do, they, too, vanish into its fiery pages, forever trapped in a cycle of cursed knowledge. In a remote medieval manor, a noblewoman possessed a mask rumored to be cursed. It was intricately carved, crimson-stained, and chillingly lifelike. Villagers whispered that the mask had been worn during a night of bloodshed centuries ago, and whoever donned it would inherit the horrors of its past. One stormy evening, the noblewoman, curious about the mask's powers, placed it over her face. Almost instantly, the air grew heavy and oppressive. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, and the flickering candlelight revealed distorted reflections in every mirror. The mask seemed alive, pressing against her skin, whispering in a voice not her own. Each breath she took carried the screams of victims long dead, their faces appearing in the mask's intricate carvings. By midnight, she felt her features merging with the mask, Her eyes glazed over, and she realized she could no longer remove it. The mask began to shift, moving independently, as if selecting its next wearer. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped. The mask had absorbed her voice. When morning came, villagers found her standing in the manor hall. The mask fused to her face, her gaze empty, yet horrifyingly knowing. They say the mask waits for anyone curious enough to touch it, ready to claim another soul, adding yet another layer of horror to its already bloody legacy. A sprawling medieval castle, long abandoned, concealed a dark secret, the walls whispered. Centuries ago, anyone who dared uncover the castle's mysteries was walled and alive, their screams eternally trapped. Locals warned travelers never to enter, but few heeded the caution. One scholar, eager to explore forgotten history, ventured inside. Stone corridors stretched endlessly, torches failing to illuminate their full length. As he moved, faint whispers emerged from the walls, at first indistinct, then forming cries, pleas, and sometimes names. The air grew thick and cold, carrying the metallic scent of ancient blood. Reaching the grand hall, he pressed his hand to the stone, and voices surged louder, revealing the tortures endured by those entombed. Flickering torchlight cast shadows that writhed, mimicking the movements of trapped souls. Each scream seemed to claw at his mind, and he realized the castle remembered every act of cruelty committed within its walls. Panicked, he tried to escape, but hallways shifted, doors vanished, and the voices guided him deeper, compelling him to witness horrors long forgotten. By dawn, he emerged, disheveled and pale, his mind scarred with knowledge no human should carry. The castle still stands, waiting, its walls whispering for the next intruder brave or foolish enough to enter. In a secluded monastery, monks spoke of a black candle that never extinguished. Legends claimed it was created during a time of plague and despair, infused with the souls of those who perished within the monastery's walls. Lighting the candle was forbidden, yet curiosity lured a young novice one moonless night. The moment he struck a flame, the candle flickered with unnatural shadows. The air grew cold and heavy, and every corner of the chamber seemed to stretch. Whispers, almost imperceptible, filled the room, growing louder with every heartbeat. The flame revealed ghostly figures emerging from the walls, monks long dead, their eyes hollow and accusatory. Each step he took made the shadows follow, twisting and lengthening unnaturally. The candle's black flame burned without smoke, yet the smell of charred flesh pervaded the air. He realized the candle did not illuminate, it drew life. As he watched, the ghostly monks reached for him, and the shadows coiled around his limbs, whispering secrets of the monastery's darkest nights. By dawn, only the candle remained, burning silently. The novice had vanished, absorbed into the flame, his cries adding to the eternal chorus of the black candle. Villagers say that anyone who dares light it feels a cold grip on their soul, and even if they survive, a shadow of the candle follows them, a constant reminder that some flames never die. In a forgotten medieval graveyard, the tomb keeper's legend haunted the living. He had been a guardian of the crypts centuries ago, devoted to protecting the dead. But death claimed him, and his spirit refused to leave his post. One stormy night, a wanderer seeking shelter entered the graveyard. Fog curled around the moss-covered tombstones, and the moon cast pale, trembling light over the land. Suddenly, he saw the figure of a man standing perfectly still, a lantern in hand, his eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The air grew thick, and a cold hand seemed to brush against his shoulder. The tomb keeper's presence was overwhelming. The wanderer could feel the weight of countless souls pressing against him. Graves shifted slightly, as if waking, and whispering voices murmured from beneath the earth. Every step closer brought shadows writhing from the ground, skeletal hands reaching for him. The keeper's lantern flickered, revealing a gaunt, hollow face, a warning to turn back. As the wanderer fled, the tomb keeper silently followed, unseen yet omnipresent. By morning, only footprints in the mud remained, fading as if the night itself had swallowed them. Locals say that any who venture near the crypts after dark are still watched, and the tomb keeper's eyes, ever vigilant, ensure no one disturbs the dead again. A medieval princess owned a mirror rumored to trap souls. After her death, the mirror remained in the castle, polished but untouched. Visitors whispered that her spirit lingered, and anyone who looked too closely risked being absorbed. One historian, fascinated by the legend, stared into the glass. The reflection shimmered unnaturally, and the room grew colder with each passing second. The princess's image moved independently, her eyes lifeless yet commanding, and faint whispers echoed around the walls. Suddenly, his reflection began to distort, merging with the princess's face. He tried to step back, but the glass pulled him closer, as if demanding his presence. Shadows stretched from the corners, forming grotesque shapes of figures who had vanished before him. He realized the mirror did not just reflect reality, it consumed it. By dawn, the historian's absence was noticed. Only the mirror remained, silent yet alive, his reflection forever trapped alongside the princess. Legends say anyone gazing too long into that mirror risks vanishing, becoming another ghostly witness to the curse it holds. A long-abandoned temple deep in the forest was said to harbor a priest who never truly died. Locals claimed that before the temple was deserted, dark rituals were performed nightly to appease forces no mortal should witness. One traveler, seeking shelter from a storm, entered the temple. The air inside was heavy, thick with incense and decay. Shadows moved across the walls, forming humanoid shapes that flickered in the torchlight. A cold voice whispered unintelligible words, compelling him to the altar. There, the priest's presence was undeniable. Though long dead, he appeared before the traveler, pale and gaunt, eyes glowing faintly with a supernatural fire. The traveler felt a weight on his soul, as if unseen hands sought to bind him to the temple. Whispers grew louder, chanting in a language lost to time. The torches flickered, casting grotesque, dancing shadows across the walls. The priest raised his hand, and visions of past sacrifices, blood-soaked rituals, and vanished worshippers flooded the traveler's mind. Panic-stricken, he tried to flee, but the temple's halls twisted impossibly, guiding him back to the altar. By dawn, the temple stood silent once more. The traveler had vanished without a trace. Villagers say that the priest remains, performing his eternal ritual, waiting for the next soul foolish enough to enter. The temple itself is alive, its shadows whispering warnings, and the priest's gaze pierces anyone daring to come near. In a remote medieval village, a mill stood abandoned for centuries, its wooden gears rotting and its stones cracked. Locals whispered that it was no ordinary mill. It ground not grain, but human memories. Travelers who dared enter were never the same afterward. One night, a curious villager ventured inside, drawn by the legend. The air was thick with a sweet, acrid scent, like burnt parchment and wet earth. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, and the floorboards creaked underfoot. As he approached the grinding stone, he saw faint, flickering shapes, faces twisted in fear and agony, trapped within the moving gears. The mill began to turn on its own. A low, grinding hum filled the room, vibrating through his bones. Each rotation of the stone pulled memories from his mind, images of childhood, family, and secret fears spiraling into the darkness. Whispers emerged from the walls, echoing memories not his own, until he could no longer distinguish reality from nightmare. Panicked, he tried to leave, but the door had vanished. The shadows moved closer, pulling him toward the center of the mill. The last thing he felt was the grinding of his own essence, absorbed into the mill's eternal hunger. Villagers say that the mill of dreams still waits, turning silently at night, hungry for the memories of anyone foolish enough to enter. In a medieval kingdom, a golden crown lay hidden in the royal treasury. It was said to grant eternal life to whoever wore it, but at a terrible cost. Each day, a piece of the wearer's soul would wither and die. One ambitious prince, obsessed with immortality, dared to claim it. The crown's weight was heavier than metal, and it seemed almost alive, pulsing against his skull. At first, he marveled at his newfound vitality, his reflection unchanging in the mirror. But soon, whispers filled his mind, voices of those who had worn it before, warning him, screaming in pain, urging him to remove it. Each day, the crown claimed more. His laughter became hollow, his memories fading, replaced by shadows of the past rulers trapped within the gold. Nightmares plagued him, visions of their deaths replayed endlessly. The palace walls seemed to close in, haunted by the spirits of former kings and queens. By the time a month passed, the prince was hollow, a living shell animated by the crown's magic. His courtiers noticed only a pale, empty figure, smiling eerily at nothing. Legends say that the crown still exists, hidden in the ruins of the old kingdom, waiting for the next soul greedy enough to bear its eternal price. In a medieval scriptorium, monks meticulously copied sacred texts. Among them, a mysterious manuscript was rumored to erase anyone who completed it from history. The scribes called it the deadline. One night, a novice, curious and ambitious, began copying the final passage. The ink glowed faintly, as if alive, and shadows in the room shifted unnaturally. Each word he wrote caused a tremor in reality. Candles flickered, walls groaned, and whispers of forgotten voices filled the chamber. As the last sentence was completed, he noticed that his own reflection vanished from the mirror. The words he wrote now consumed him. His existence began to fade, memories erased from the minds of everyone he knew. Shadows pulled him toward the manuscript, and he realized too late that he had become a part of it. By morning, the scriptorium appeared untouched, as if nothing had happened. The manuscript lay open, glowing faintly, waiting for the next hand brave or foolish enough to finish the deadline. Legends warn that anyone who dares complete the text is not merely erased. They are trapped in the manuscript forever, their essence a whisper in the margins, a ghost in the ink. In a medieval city, an ancient cathedral stood as a testament to faith and fear. Villagers whispered that each night, a shadow appeared on its outer walls, stretching unnaturally, moving as if alive. Those who saw it by moonlight often disappeared by morning. One curious scholar decided to witness it. As night fell, the cathedral's towering spires were bathed in silver light, and the streets grew eerily silent. He approached the main entrance, heart pounding, noticing that the shadows inside twisted unnaturally, forming grotesque silhouettes that seemed to reach toward him. At midnight, the shadow appeared on the wall, a tall, distorted figure, elongated and black, moving independently of the city's light. The scholar's breath caught in his throat as he realized the shadow mirrored no human form. It pulsed with its own malevolent life. The air grew thick and cold, carrying faint whispers of past victims, and he felt an invisible force pulling him toward the wall. Panicked, he tried to retreat, but his own shadow no longer followed him. It remained fused with the cathedral's dark figure. Hands, unseen, seemed to grip his arms, and a chorus of silent screams filled the air. By dawn, the scholar vanished, leaving only his shadow imprinted on the wall, twisted alongside the cathedral's dark sentinel. Villagers say that the shadow still appears on moonlit nights, stretching across the cathedral walls, waiting for those curious enough to watch. And once you see it, your fate may be sealed forever. In a secluded monastery, there once lived a monk who defied death, attempting to imprison a god of death within a sacred bell. The legend claims that centuries later, the bell's final toll would unleash the deity's wrath upon the world. A traveler, hearing whispers of the legend, entered the monastery one stormy night. The halls were cold, shadows stretching unnaturally, and the air smelled faintly of rust and old incense. He found the bell, massive and tarnished, resting above the altar. Its rope swayed as if moved by invisible hands. Driven by curiosity, he struck the bell. A deafening toll echoed through the monastery, vibrating in his bones. Shadows erupted from the walls, twisting into forms of the dead monks who had once tried to contain the deity. The air thickened, filled with whispers, warnings, and pleas. He realized the legend was true. The god of death stirred within the bell, no longer constrained. Every strike of the bell bent reality, warping corridors, making the monastery impossible to navigate. Ghostly hands pulled at him, dragging him closer to the altar, and his vision filled with horrifying glimpses of death across centuries. By the final toll, his body was gone, leaving only a whisper in the monastery's air. Villagers say that the bell remains, silent until the next fool dares to ring it. When it tolls, shadows stir, reality bends, and the god of death awakens, claiming those who dared disturb the monastery's eternal secret. Asterisk. And so, the forgotten horrors of the medieval world remain. Haunted churches, cursed mirrors, shadowy figures, and tales of those who vanished into darkness still linger in the shadows of history. If you dared to follow these stories, remember, some secrets are never truly gone. The echoes of the past, the whispers of the damned, and the toll of the final bell may follow you long after you leave. Thank you for joining this journey into fear, mystery, and ancient terror. If you want to uncover more forgotten horrors and dark tales that history tried to bury, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. But beware, curiosity can be dangerous, and some stories are best left forgotten.